Welcome to the Dating After Divorce podcast. I'm your host, Sade Curry, and I believe every divorced woman deserves a romantic relationship where she feels safe, loved, and cherished. You can create the most amazing life after divorce, and I will teach you how. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dating After Divorce podcast. I am your host, Sade Curry, and I am here with my guest, Gia Huff. Gia is a life coach, and she works with women after her own journey of getting divorced and healing from infidelity. She is a certified professional life coach, and she has a program to guide and support women who are going through the same thing. She brings women together in small groups to heal and grow alongside one another in community. And she's the mother of 3 adult children. She's a teacher and a professional photographer. Welcome to the podcast, Gia.
Hi, Sade. So nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to meet you, sort of in person.
Yeah.
And I love how technology brings us together. And I have been excited to hear your story. I don't know the full story. I just know that you talked about a little bit of it in our professional Facebook group. And I was like, I've got to hear this. So, but before we jump in, could you just kind of tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, the work you do, and how you came to this work?
Yes. So I'm a professional life coach. I have 2 certifications, and I focus on thought work and also coaching the unconscious mind. Because a lot of times it's our unconscious beliefs that are driving our behavior and our emotions. And I've begun working with women specifically that are healing from infidelity. So I was coaching in a more general sense for about 4 years. And then I've shifted now to working with women who are healing from infidelity because I know the impact of a trauma like that. And I wasn't able to really find the resources that helped me through anything beyond what I found in therapy. And, we're still living our lives every day. We got to get up and go to work. We got to deal with the kids. And we need to be very functional. But a lot of times we're carrying this heavy weight. And so I've just figured out from my own lived experience how to start to move past that trauma and experience post-traumatic growth and find ways to have lots of joy again and to stop living in the story of the past and what could have been, what should have been, what's fair, what's not fair, moving into the true rebuilding of the life of your dreams. And not believing you've lost anything, but really believing that you've been set free to create whatever you want.
Yeah, that sounds like and I know exactly what you mean, but sometimes when you're in the thick of the divorce, in the thick of the betrayal, it can sound like a tall order for us to say, oh yeah, we have this, and we can have this amazing life after divorce. So let's talk a little bit about your journey, how you got here. How old were you when you got married in your previous marriage? How long were you married, and what led to the divorce?
Okay, so I met my husband in college, and I was 19 when we met. So the last time I was dating, I was 19 years old. And we married in 1993. And we were married for 28 years. We were together a total of 30 years. In 2017, he told me that he had been involved in a long affair. And this was so absolutely unexpected. You could have knocked me over with a feather. I had no idea. I thought we had a good marriage. I felt we had what seemed to be a very normal marriage. We had our moments, but he was totally my person. He was my soft place to fall at the end of every day. We always were in constant contact with one another if he was ever out of town. We had a strong family. I just never considered this as a possibility in our relationship because I really did believe him to be the most honest person that I knew. I trusted him implicitly with my life. So, and I also depended on him completely for my emotional support, my financial support, everything. We have 3 children together, and 2 were in college at the time, and our third one was entering 7th grade. So I had 6 more years before she would be leaving for college. And I couldn't even consider divorce at the beginning. I was like, well, I guess we're going to have to figure this out because, we still had 6 years of raising this young one. And I had been, working in an entrepreneurial business. I was a photographer, a total of 20 years, but it was a small business. It was a fun money business. It certainly wasn't the kind of work that brought in enough to support me or to support a child. So I just couldn't imagine my life without the structures that we'd built and the security, the insurance, all of the support that comes with being a dependent in a marriage. So we jumped into therapy. And even after 18 months, I still really wasn't feeling healed or like we were moving in a direction of healing. Even though
had the affair ended when you went into therapy, like, was it over?
Yes. The affair ended, and as far as I know, they had no contact, and he was completely all in on making the marriage work. But I think that the breach was so big and the forgiveness felt so far away from me, so really impossible to access. I even had a mental block, like, I don't think I understand what forgiveness is because I can't let this go. But yeah. I was, I did set the goal, and I was convinced that I had to be all in on making this marriage work. And I kept only considering that as an option. I really wouldn't consider divorce until my emotions became so low that I was, in a truly depressed state. And I felt like I'm going to have to do something to get out of this. I did trauma work. I saw psychiatrists. I had my own therapist. I was receiving coaching, and I just wasn't improving. So,
you know what the thoughts were that you were having at the time that sort of kept you in that place? Like,
yeah,
especially because you were wanting to work on it. And it's different for women. It's like, you know what, this is just doesn't match my values. This isn't what I want. Like, every woman is different. But in your case, you wanted to be all in, but something in your psyche was preventing that.
Right. Well, yes. And I kept trying to believe that my thoughts were, I'm all in, I'm making this work. I can make this work. We can have a beautiful marriage together. But I also had a lot of thoughts about, how did I not see this? How did I not know? I was so stupid that this could get past me. I don't want to be stupid again by making the choice to stay. It really did sort of make me have to face a lot of thoughts that I had about myself. I was holding on to a lot of self-doubt. And it opened a lot of doors for me to explore self-love and self-compassion. And also how to learn to listen to myself, because I didn't really know how to find that. When people would say, oh, just listen to your gut or listen to yourself. And I was like, I don't know how.
But I get that. I can totally understand. I know a lot of the listeners will resonate with that, because dating is all about, okay, listen to your gut, listen to your intuition. And they're like, well, 50% of the time, my intuition tells me something that's different from what's actually happening.
Yeah. Yes, because my intuition throughout our marriage was that I was with someone that I could trust. And to find out that I was wrong about that really rocked my world. Really, really rocked my world. And he was deeply sorry. You know, he really was. He wanted to make this work, but I don't know. I just
Yeah.
I really at some point I knew I was going to have to let go.
Yeah. And so what were your next steps? Like after you realized, okay, this is really, impacting me in a deep way, what decisions did you make after that? Do you wonder exactly how divorced women just like you are meeting eligible men who want a real relationship and a commitment? They're doing it by dating with their core values. Your core values are the GPS that lead you to the partner you've been looking for. When you use your core values on dating apps, text messages, and at social events, you will easily connect with your true match partner without chasing, settling, or wasting time with non-committal men. I have taught exactly how to do this in the 2-hour Core Values Dating Blueprint course available on my website, shadecurry.com/dating. That's SADECURRY.com/dating. You will learn exactly how to identify your core values and use them on your dating profile, how to ask the right questions via text, and how to tell the right stories on dates so that you attract the right people and repel those who aren't right for you. If you're ready to meet your true match, hop over to shadecurry.com/dating or click the link in the show notes. Now back to the episode.
So I made the decision to file for divorce. I spoke with an attorney, and she said that if we were able to have a divorce agreement and an amicable split, then it would be a pretty easy process. It was during COVID and no one was going to court at the time. So she said all we would have to do is fill out this form, which basically was drafting our own agreement. We live in Texas, which is a non-alimony state. So the agreement was pretty much split everything. And we sent it back to the attorney, who had to wait 60 days. We filed, and then we had to wait a 60-day waiting period. And then it went through the judge's office, and that took maybe another 30 days for the judge to sign off on it. But yeah, it was actually pretty quick and painless, which was surprising to me, and not very expensive. That was very surprising to me because I thought it was thousands and thousands of dollars to get a divorce, and that it would take at least 6 months or a year. And it ended up being no big deal.
Yeah, there are a lot of divorces that are, thousands and thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars and take a long time. Mine took 3 years. That's typically because it's not amicable.
Right.
That's really the differentiating factor. If it's amicable and both people are like, hey, let's do the right thing for each other, let's be open and honest and do what's best for the kids, it's usually kind of like inexpensive.
Yes. Yeah. And I think we both wanted to do that. I will say that hindsight is 2020, and I do wish I'd had someone advising me more, because I couldn't have known, exactly how much it would take to support myself after the divorce. And so, I do wish that I'd had someone advocating for me, because since it's an infidelity case, there's often a lot that attorneys can do to support the woman more, or to support the spouse that's been cheated on more if they have been a dependent, which I was. I was mostly in a stay-at-home mom role for 26 years. So, yeah. So yes, I think looking back, I wish I maybe would have asked more questions, maybe paid more and had some advice up front, rather than let us just work it out ourselves and split everything down the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally hear you. I just completed working with a client on her divorce, and she worked with me for 6 months to plan the divorce. And I was like, her divorce is one of the best I've ever seen in a situation where the man is narcissistic and a jerk and exploitative. I was like, taking the 6 months for her to get clarity, decide what she wanted, decide how she was going to ask for what she wanted and how she was going to file in a safe way. I was like, that's if you're going to divorce someone who's got narcissistic or toxic tendencies, this is the best way you can do it is to take your time to do it. So yeah, I totally hear you with that. What were your thoughts about a new relationship at that time? Like you just got divorced, it wasn't
Yeah.
what you wanted. Did you even think about dating?
So right away after the divorce, I knew that it was not a good idea for me to jump into dating. Because I had been so codependent on my husband. I wanted to break that cycle and learn how to really fall in love with myself. I wanted to just be in a healthy relationship with me, where I cleaned up all of my own thoughts, and where I was feeling, confident and proud of myself. And there was times when I was afraid to be alone on a weekend. And I'd look ahead to the weekend, I'd have a lot of anxiety about, I hope I'm not going to be spiraling into a pit of despair this weekend, and sometimes I would proactively make plans with friends, but then I started to notice I'm dependent on always having something to do. So I wanted to see, like, can I enjoy a quiet weekend alone and, really trust myself to have a good time with no plans. And I figured it out. I learned to just cook by myself, um, do a creative project, read a book, watch a movie or a show, or, you know, last minute make a plan, or even just go for a walk. I go for a walk very often and find so much peace and delight in just being alone. I needed to learn to be alone and to be in my
Yeah.
own skin and feel comfortable and secure and satisfied. I just didn't want to jump right back into being dependent on someone else or
Mhm.
transfer my codependency to someone else.
Oh yeah, amazing. And I love that you I forget how you said it. You said learn to be alone, but you said it in a way that's a little bit different than I normally hear it. Because the way people say it, sometimes it's kind of like this sad situation. Like you gotta learn to be alone, or you need to date yourself. And I'm like, I just this maybe it's the tone in which it's said. Sometimes it's kind of like there's something wrong with you, but it actually isn't that there's something wrong with the person who's having difficulty being alone. It's that they've been pouring so much into others that the
Yeah,
practice of focusing on ourselves can be hard. It's not a, oh, so sad, you're divorced, go be alone.
right.
It's actually
Yeah,
some of this sacred, I look at it like this sacred period
yes.
where all you have to think about is yourself.
Yeah,
Like self, all of the love that you were hoping your ex would give you or that somebody else will give you, all the attention, it's cultivating the ability to give it to yourself.
right.
You know,
Yeah, and I read in one of Glennon Doyle's books, she said, "It's me and me until death do us part." And I thought, okay, I'm taking that as my mantra. It's me and me.
yes. Oh my God, that's so good. Yeah, being your own biggest advocate, your own biggest champion,
Right.
like being the person, like my kids, I mean, generally, for the most part, my kids can, when they were younger, they could count on me. I was the mom that was like, if they said someone did something, I was the mom who was like, I wasn't going to ask any questions. I'm like, I'm in your corner. I don't care what happened,
Yeah.
And they were good kids, so they never manipulated that. But I was that mom for my kids. And I had to learn to be that person for myself. That listen, I never second guess myself. I never criticize myself. I never put myself down. The world does enough of that.
Mm,
You
yeah,
know, like why would we
totally.
join in? Yeah. So I love that. I love that. I love that you went on that journey. What made the switch? Like at what point did you shift into, oh, the relationship might be a good thing?
Yeah. So I was open to invitations from friends who knew someone that they wanted to introduce me to. Um, I wasn't ready to get on dating apps, but I was interested in organic dating. And I thought, if they can vouch for this person and they can say he's a good guy, he's a safe space, then I'm down for that. And so after about maybe 9 months, 10 months, I started going on a few dates with people that were recommended to me. And that was about three different men that I went
Mhm.
on dates with. And at first, it was just like, I want to practice. What's it like to be across a table from someone, you know, now in my 50s, because the last time I dated, I was in 19. And, you know, it's a whole different thing. Now we're grown-ups and they've probably also been divorced and, you know, just kind of interesting. So I just went for it and actually had a great time going on those few dates. Just like a night out with someone else, get to know them, have a delicious meal, you know, and share our stories. And it would open a nice little text conversation that would continue. But none of them felt like a true like love connection or anything.
Yeah. Did you have multiple dates with any of them?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I did.
How did you sort of like brand that in your mind? Like you kind of knew it wasn't a love connection or unlikely to be, but you still went on the dates and had a good time. Like how did you frame that? Because I love that. This is what I teach.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to share how you shifted into that for the listeners, because a lot of what causes so much angst when we're dating is
Mm,
that we're looking at every person that comes our way like a possible husband. And that just
yes.
puts so much pressure on
Right.
it.
Well, I think I looked at it as let me practice curiosity. Let me just go and be curious about them and also curious about myself. How am I showing up? Am I self-conscious? Am I
Mhm.
comfortable? Am I able to be relaxed? Am I able to be authentic and genuine?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to see what that would be like.
hmm Did
And
you
I
find that? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, you asked.
I was gonna say, and did you find that you got better with each, being authentic, being yourself? Like when you observed yourself, did you find that, oh, it's easier each time?
Right. Yeah, it was easy the first time. And I thought, wow, I'm really actually great at this.
Love it.
I
Love
I know
it.
I'm good at conversation. I think it's probably my best skill set. And I'm also good at asking great questions of the other person so that I can help them to feel really comfortable quickly and
Mhm.
settle into nice, easy conversation. So I was
Yeah.
like, the first time I think I thought, wow, I'm normal. I'm good at I can be normal. And then it was like, oh, actually, I'm charming, I'm funny,
Mm.
I'm a delight.
Yes, you had an amazing self-concept. I love, and that's so important. How you think about yourself. I tell my clients that the things that are most important is how you think about yourself in the dating process, how you think about other people, your thoughts about the men out there, and your
Yes,
thoughts about dating itself, the whole concept around dating and creating this relationship that you want. Those three areas, what you think will make or break your ability to create the result you want.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I did feel that there was something about taking time to love on myself first. I felt like it was a valuable, I think it gave me access to the authenticity that is there within me. Because I found her and I loved her
Mm.
and I knew what I was bringing to the table when I went on those dates.
Yeah, amazing. So you have been in a relationship now for a year.
Yep.
Was this person one of those people that you dated through your friends?
No, actually, I met him on Bumble.
Yay,
Yeah.
another win for Bumble. I mean, I know they've got issues. I do know they have issues. But I met my husband on Bumble too.
Ah,
Yeah. So what made you get on the app? So like you were obviously doing great with the in-person introductions. What
right.
were your thoughts about online dating?
Well, so I didn't know how else to meet more men. I had those three that I was introduced to by friends, but I thought, where else? Do I don't really think I want to go to bars by myself, and try to find someone out like that.
Mhm.
And so I knew that the apps were there, and I actually read something somewhere that sort of talked about the apps being like, if you just looked at it as a statistical analysis, first of all, it lets you filter out anything that you're not interested in. And then you get to read a person's profile and learn some things about them before you have any conversation. And it really did seem daunting and scary. Some of my friends told me that, for them, it wasn't working out, and it was, they were meeting a lot of not so great guys. And I thought, well, I could think that that's how it's going to be for me. But I decided, like, I'm just going to try it out. Any fear that I felt, I thought, okay, if I'm scared, then I'm just going to have to push myself to do it. So I gave myself a deadline, April 1st, which was about a year and 3 months after my divorce. And I said, okay, you have to get your profile up by April 1st. I was doing another coach certification at the beginning of 23, and I just wanted to focus on that. But I said, as soon as that's over, I'm starting. And I did. I posted, I got my profile up. It did take me like 3 days, though, to be a perfectionist about it.
Well, it might not be perfectionism. It might actually be thoughtfulness. Dating profiles actually require, in order to attract the right kind of person, it requires a little bit of thought. Don't wing it.
I agree. And as I was surprised how, the questions that the prompts that they offer on the website, I was like, wow, I didn't know I was going to have to think about all this as I was putting my profile together. So yes, it did take some thoughtfulness, and also how to look up the pictures that portrayed me in the way I wanted to be portrayed online.
Yeah.
Sometimes, in fact, as a photographer now, sometimes people ask me to take their profile pictures for them.
Amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I won't digress into my thoughts about pictures. We'll leave that for another podcast episode. So you talked about pushing through the fear to get started. You gave yourself a deadline. I got to do this. I have two questions there. One is, what was your why? Like, why did you sort of move yourself in that way? It was obviously your brain was not motivated to jump into it. It did not think of it like, oh, hey, here's a nice slice of cake. It saw it as something daunting, something challenging. What was your why that made you say, I got to move through this. I got to push through this?
I sort of thought of it as kind of getting back on the horse. Like I looked at it like the only reason I'm not doing it is my mind is afraid. But I, as a human being, very much want a partner. I very much want connection. And I thought, like, what if it could be really easy to find someone online? What if it's not as hard or scary as everyone says? And I was feeling so, happy with myself and so lighthearted and feeling, fun and free. And I thought, I know I'm ready. And to invite someone else into my life would now be like icing on the cake, right?
Yeah.
So, but online dating and all the fears that might come along with that, it was just a bit of a block. And I thought, that's just a wall I need to push over. I need to push that down and go for it, because I can always say no to anything, right? I'm in my power in online dating.
Yes. That's so, oh my God, I love this. So this is like it's a module in my program where I talk about boundaries versus walls, which both of them are protective. Boundaries are protective, but walls are also protective.
Yeah.
And what I find with a lot of women when they're dating is that they use walls to protect themselves from potential harm on the dating app. So they're like, I'm going to swipe left on everybody who doesn't look like, I don't know, the safest person on earth, because I'm trying to protect myself, which you do need to protect yourself. However, building a wall that keeps others from accessing you and you accessing other people and completely avoiding contact is not the best way to keep yourself safe. Whereas boundaries are, I'm going to come out, I'm going to be open and vulnerable. But the minute I see something that's a red flag or something that's not in alignment, I know I trust myself to shut it down.
Yes.
I think a lot of people don't have that self-trust that they would shut it down. And so they build a wall instead.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I just thought I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to, not build a wall, not stay shut down. I'm ready to start, exploring the land of relationships. And I did spend a lot of time creating my profile, and I thought, like, okay, just to make it a little easier and not overthink too much, just how would I describe myself if I was telling my best friend what I'm going to write on Bumble, And I actually captured it if you want to hear what I wrote.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So the opening statement, I said that I love to laugh. I love a good conversation. I love people. I love the outdoors, especially beach walks and day hiking and exploring. I've been a teacher, a photographer, and now I'm a life coach. I have 3 grown kids. They're great. 2 of them are queer. Are you cool? Question mark.
Ooh, I love that.
And I just left it at that.
Yeah.
And
Did
then,
your did your did your partner ever tell you which part of that was most intriguing to him? Did you ever have that conversation?
yes, yes. He said that the picture grabbed him. And
Mm-hmm.
then he said, but I do read people's profiles. And so he read everything first before liking. And when I saw that he had liked my profile, I read everything that he wrote too. And
Yeah.
he said also that he likes, that he's very much into the outdoors. And
Mm.
we had a lot of similar, like cooking. We both had selected cooking. We both selected hiking, exploring, traveling. And so when we connected, he said, I want you to know that I'm totally cool about your kids. It was kind of one of the first things that he said. He
Amazing.
said, I'm fine with humans being humans. And I was like, wow, I really like it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, what a winner. Now,
Yeah,
had you gone
exactly.
on any first dates from the apps before you matched with him?
So guess what? He was the first person I matched with, and and we matched 3 days in. So I was on that
Mm.
app for 3 days, and I
Yeah.
met this guy, and we've been together already a year.
Did you pay for the app or were you on a free version?
I was on the free version.
The free version.
Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah, I know. I
That is
know it really
amazing.
is unusual. And I did talk with a few other guys in the chat, but I never
Hmm.
met anyone else. I never met up with anyone else on dates.
Yeah. I know people say it's unusual. It's unusual and not unusual at the same time. Like I've
Yeah.
seen both sides of that. And I think it depends on the journey that the person needs to go through. So with my husband, he was on the apps for 2 days.
Wow.
And actually, he met me in the first 24 hours. And because I was very practiced with online dating, I asked him out immediately because I really liked him. I dated a ton of people. And I was like, okay, I think I really like this person. So I didn't waste any time saying, hey, do you want to go for dinner tomorrow? But I was on the apps for 18 months.
Ah,
Right. And so, but when I look at my journey, I could see it was like I had gone through so many iterations of who I was and how I was dating and how I saw relationships. And every time I was on the apps and dating someone, I was learning something more about myself and something more about that I needed to do better that I
yep.
couldn't have learned outside of dating. Just
Right.
because of my unique story and my unique journey. And he had his own story. He actually did a lot of in-person dating. And after several years of doing that, he was like, okay, I don't think in-person dating is working for me. That's when he went on the app. So he had gone through his own journey that
Yeah.
made him ready to respond to me reaching out that quickly.
Right.
And this is what I always try to, it's hard to convey that to someone who is on there, has been on there for 2 years and hasn't found their person.
Yep.
It just means that there's an adjustment, there's some work that needs to be done. What we need to do is identify what that is, do it quickly so that you can get closer to your person. It's not that it's not going to work for you. It's that there's a shift. Some people are swiping all the way wrong. Some people are dismissing people they should be saying yes to. Some people are saying yes to people they should be dismissing and are wasting a lot of time with those people so they can't reach the people. Everyone has the things that they're doing, quote unquote, doing wrong, so to speak, that they had to learn. So I guess my question for you with that is that what do you think you learned before? Since it only took you a few days, what did you bring to that moment that you think, oh yeah, it makes sense that this happened because I had learned this or I brought this to this situation?
Well, I love that whole concept that, everyone is going to have their own unique journey in dating. I did want to do a lot of healing before I started dating, and I feel like I accomplished that. I feel like my heart was really open. I actually fell really hard for this guy really fast. And he was really wanting to take it slow. So, even though we're a good match, the way that we felt in the beginning, he was very guarded and I was very much like, yeah, you're perfect. So, and that's fine. I know from the coaching work that we've done that I get to enjoy the relationship however it feels to me. I get to feel these feelings. I get to feel this excitement. I get to feel this love. Even if we're not saying I love you, I get to feel the love if that's how it feels to me, right? And so I just feel so much like I was ready. I think I was ready. And that is why it went so easily. I was not expecting it to go so quick. I certainly thought I'd go on a few dates with him, go on a few dates with other guys, compare them, whatever. But it wasn't like that. I didn't want to go out with anybody else. And I'd let myself just follow my impulses there.
Yeah. Did you consider that it might not work out? What were your thoughts about if it didn't work out with him?
Yeah, totally. I thought, yeah, who knows, right? And I know that I'll be okay. Like if it doesn't work out with him, then I go back in and try again. But I practice being in the present. And in each moment along the way, it was so good and it was so fun. And I just was like, wow, I can't believe all this fun that's right here available. And I was missing out.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Even though I don't think it's missing out, but
we're missing out. When we're single, we're missing out on a different kind of thing. It doesn't mean what we have, because when you're partnered or you're in a relationship, there's some of the you can't really go back on the apps and enjoy that fun anymore.
Well,
yeah.
I think when I was newly divorced, there was a part of me that thought, I am never doing this again. I think that's really common for women. We're so afraid, and I also, a big piece of it was, how am I ever going to trust someone again after what happened in my life? Like, how am I going to ever trust again? And I knew that could crush me and keep me, living single the rest of my life. So I just think that now when I look at that possibility, oh my gosh, I thought of never dating again. And now comparing that to how rich life feels shared and how fun it is to be in a partnership. I honestly can't believe how fun it is. And, to be in your 50s and discovering someone new and feeling all these feelings again, like when you were a kid, when you were a teenager, it's magical. You don't even think you have access to it. And here it is, Yeah. So I'm truly grateful all the time for this life experience.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. Gosh, I have so many questions, but I wanted to talk a little about what you said about trust, because this is something that I end up coaching women on quite a bit.
Yeah.
Was, how am I ever going to trust someone again? And what I tell them is, I help them redefine trust,
Right.
not as what they thought it was before, but as something completely different that's dependent on themselves. How did you walk yourself through the question of how will I trust someone again?
So I know now that the worst can happen and I will survive it. And I trust myself. I trust myself to carry myself through anything.
Yes, yes. I mean, I figured that would be the answer because I know we're both trained
Yeah.
in that self-trust, in building that self-trust and building not confidence out there, but self-confidence
Right.
that we are our best advocate, we are our best champion, we are the person that we can trust the most on this planet,
Yeah.
which is the opposite of how we are often programmed, as young people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially young women.
Especially young women. That's again a whole nother podcast episode for that.
Right.
So looking back, I know we talked about like, oh, we were missing out in terms of like feeling like, well, I'm never going to do this again. What does life look like for you now? Like, all right, I'm on the other side. I have this relationship. Like, what does the day-to-day look like? One of the things I try to advocate for when I tell my clients is like the best way to choose the right person for you is to think about what life is going to look like a year,
Oh,
2 years, 5 years, not the dating period. The dating period is the easy, fun part. It's
right.
the life part.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does that look like for you now?
So now, well, we live separately. We each have our own places. I love having my own space. We're not. I don't think we're deep enough into the relationship to consider sharing a living space, but we're both very happy to have one another over.
Mhm.
We share most meals, most evenings together. So now there's just somebody who's woven into my daily life. We talk if we're not going to see one another, that we always know, like, and we just live less than 1 mile apart. Like we can walk to each other's
Amazing.
homes. So it's been great. Like truly,
That's almost the perfect setup. I need to
yeah,
talk to
it's
my
great.
husband about this. Like, hey, Kent, how do you feel about living a mile away?
It's wonderful. And I do love having someone to share my day with again. I love,
Mhm.
hearing about his day. And I think it's so nice to have someone to uh just be your witness. And
Yes.
um and then I feel like it's such a bonus because he's an amazing cook. And the level of flavor and nutrition in my life now is just massively leveled up. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel so alive. Like now I would say that that's probably the biggest thing that's new is I feel so alive. It's like full body
Amazing.
joy. And
Oh,
yeah,
amazing.
it's fantastic.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Wow.
just, yeah, better than I thought it would be. And sometimes I even think that all the suffering I had to go through was worth it. You know, if I got to peel back the curtain and get this big prize, it's a big
Yeah.
payout.
Yeah. Amazing. Oh, so good. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I wanted to save a few minutes to talk about your work.
Okay.
So you have the support group, you have a program for women who've experienced infidelity. Who typically comes to work with you? What are they experiencing? And what do you take them through to get to the other side?
Okay. So they have experienced infidelity in their marriage and they are the ones who were cheated on, right?
Mhm.
I do know some coaches that I refer people to if they are the cheater. But if you have been cheated on, I'm the coach for you. And I do think it's very valuable. I provide one-on-one coaching for women, but I think it's very valuable for them to be in my group coaching program because we share our stories together and
Mhm.
we get to support one another. And so I actually just created recently a Facebook group that's free for women who are healing from infidelity. And I'll send you that. We can link in the show notes.
Yep, absolutely.
But I think women healing alongside one another, there's an alchemy there that is a lot of, me too. I feel that too, and a lot of growth just by witnessing what others are experiencing. But always our eye is on what are we calling forward from the client? Like, what are we calling them toward? And calling them toward, a life where they're no longer a victim, a life where they're no longer stuck in their trauma, where they're able to understand how their trauma affects them and see how does it show up in their life, and then what to do about it when they're triggered. So it's a very trauma-informed healing experience, but we also really focus on the present, being joyful, seeking joy, stepping into self-confidence, stepping into self-love, and becoming unafraid of your emotions.
I love that. I love that. So good. So good. And I know 100% there are people listening to this who need this work as well. So if you have experienced infidelity and you are struggling with some impact of that trauma, please check out the show notes for this episode and check out all of Gia's material. And we're going to have all of your links in the show notes for this episode. Gia, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm going to ask one last question, which is that for any woman who's thinking about dating after divorce or is currently dating after divorce, what's your best piece of advice for her?
I think just letting yourself be curious about your response to the experience. How is this making me feel? Am I relaxed when I'm across the table from this person? Tuning into yourself and just knowing with a great deal of curiosity, how is this for me? What is it like for me to be across from this person or in the presence of this person? And then very, very curious about them, because I think it's actually surprising to me, the person that I partnered with, it didn't follow any kind of a list. I didn't have a list of what I was looking for. And it turns out he's just what I'm looking for. But, maybe I wouldn't have said yes if I had too rigid of a list for myself, right? So I let myself be curious, and I made a great discovery.
Oh, so good. Oh, Gia, you're amazing. Thank you so much for those words of wisdom. We appreciate it. Listeners, we want to thank you for your time and attention today. Please check out all of Gia's stuff. Clearly, there's a lot more. She has a lot more to share than what she's shared on this podcast episode. So I encourage you to follow her on social media and check out the rest of her work. We want to thank you for your time and attention. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening today. If you are ready to get married after divorce, I want to invite you to download my free 8-video training specifically designed to help divorced women date with ease and get married again. Head over to shadecurry.com to get started. That's SADECURRY.com. I'll see you inside.